ladies and gentlemen, without wasting time, please allow me to welcome you all. Thank you for joining. So first and foremost, to our visionary Readers Book Club. We have a purpose and a mission and a vision. I'll start with the mission. Our mission really is to create the reading culture within the African continent and beyond. And to help us achieve that mission, we have a vision, and that means we want to see each and every African home with a bookshelf. And as long as that bookshelf is bigger than your television screen, we are happy. The whole purpose behind our why is that we want to encourage each other, our family members, our friends, even ourselves, to read more books and better. Because we believe that the more you read, the more you build that foundation you need for your success, whatever success you are thinking of financially in your field, or whatever kind of success you are thinking of. We believe that reading books is a firm foundation that will help you achieve that success you envision for yourself. Today we have an MC who will be basically the program coordinator for this meeting. She will facilitate them. I will think at this point I will allow our MC of the evening to take over and guide us through the program. Over to you, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Sibo and Jeff. So welcome to the session, everybody. I think that was a well done introduction, Sibo. Thank you so much for that. I think it gave a good context for everybody that's online in terms of what we do and what we stand for as a club. So welcome to everyone, and I'm excited about this session this afternoon. I think, when we started the book club over a year ago, I told Sibo, I think once that, I'd always been looking forward to being part of a book club, but I'd never taken the step to actually join one, right? You know how we always talk, but we don't do or execute. So Sibo was like the savior that I needed to help us start this book club. So thank you, Sibo, just to give you your flowers also. Thank you so much for starting our book club. So ladies and gentlemen, as Sibo has said, we have an exciting program. Yes, not too many speakers, but for me, I believe that whoever speaks, whether it's one person that speaks and whether it's 2 or 3 people gathered, there's always something valuable that we can learn. I believe that it doesn't have to be hundreds of people, just a few of us here, and the words of wisdom that we'll hear from everybody matter. So I'm really looking forward to this afternoon. So we do have about an hour. And as Sibo has said, we've got about 3 speakers. The first speaker this afternoon will be Veronica Rakwena, and she'll be reviewing the book of the month, which is Start with the Why by Simon Sinek. And then we'll have Sibo Nisenim Golozeli to review War in the Boardroom by Al and Laura Rees. Then our last and final speaker, but most important speaker, is our guest speaker, which is Miss Kanaji Govender. So I'm really looking forward to this, but I will introduce our guest speaker a little bit later. So I think let's not take more time. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this afternoon, Veronica Rakwena. If you can please review the book, and you have about 5 minutes, but yes, if it does go above, I think we won't stop you. We'll just let you know just with a click if it's getting too much out of time. But yeah, you can maybe just speak for 5 to 7 minutes or so. So yeah, you can go on, and I'm looking forward to the review of the book of the month, Start with the Why. So Veronica, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Veronica Rakwena, and I'm going to be reviewing the book of the month. I listened to the book on YouTube, and it's a 9 hours book. I managed to listen to 6 hours, so I'll be giving my review based on the 6 hours that I had. It's a very big book, so it's going to be a bit challenging to summarize it in 5 minutes, but I'm going to focus on the key points that I remember and that meant something to me. In the beginning of the book, the author mentions 2 ways to influence behavior. The first one is to inspire. The second one is to manipulate. The people who inspire are the white people, whereas the people who manipulate are the people who do not have a clear why. The author goes on to firstly explain the people who focus on manipulation by first stating that manipulation only gets you short-term results. You are not able to maintain the relationship with the people that you are working with if you use manipulation to influence their decision to support you. He goes on to mention ways that people use manipulation to influence decisions. The first one is price cards. a lot of companies cut their prices in an attempt to gain more customers, whereas in the long term, they end up making a loss because they are selling products at a lower price to gain customers. The second one is using promotions. When you use promotions, even if it's during the end of the season and you have to take out the stock, it does not change the fact that you paid full price for that stock and you needed to make a certain profit margin to sustain your business. Another disadvantage of using promotions is that your customers get addicted to those promotions, and when you don't have promotions, they lose interest in your business and they move to the next one. The other way that people use manipulation is through fear. If you look at the adverts that they show on the TV, for example, the Domestos advert, they show you a lot of germs and bacteria in your toilet, and then you become afraid and then you go and buy their products. But if that product is not effective, you're not going to go back because they only use fear, and they can only take you so far with fear as a means to influence your decision to buy. Another thing that people use to manipulate people is aspirational messages. For example, weight loss products, they always say, if you use our product, you will be like this. Whereas their product is more focused on getting money for them. The author then goes on to offer an alternative perspective, which is the behavior influenced by why. And that is the behavior of people who want to inspire, who want to bring about change, and people who want to see the world change in a positive way and just to serve. In describing people who are inspired by their why, the author introduces the golden circle. At the middle of the circle is the why. At the center is the why, and then the circle has 3 levels. At the center is the why, the middle line is how, and then the last one, the outer line, is the what. So you have the why, you have the how, and you have the what. People who are focused on manipulating other people, they start with the what. For example, you might want to make money and be famous, and then you then go on to how can I do that? Whereas people who are inspired by their why start with why, and then as soon as your why is clear, you are able to figure out how and what to do to bring about that why. The fame and the money is a product of their why, not what they are focusing on. The author then goes on to advise us that we need to base our behaviors on why we are doing what we are doing instead of what we are doing. And then he goes on to describe the different parts of our mind and focuses on the neocortex, which is the part of our brain that focuses on data and research and can be used to manipulate information to influence people to buy things. And then there's the limbic brain, which focuses on irrationality, on feelings. On when you decide to buy a product, sometimes it's influenced by how you feel about that company, your loyalty towards their company, your trust, because you've worked with them over time and you know how they operate. But the author does also mention that feelings can inspire destructive behavior. Hitler, for example, he was very passionate and felt very passionate about what he was trying to do. Going back to the golden circle, the author mentions 3 areas: the clarity of your why. Without a clear why, it is difficult for one to make a decision. Also, when you know your why, people know why they support you. The discipline of how, when you know your why and it's clear, you attract people who know how. The author is very clear on the fact that sometimes the why people don't know how, but if the why is very clear, you attract the why people, the how people, and they assist you in bringing up your vision. And then there's the consistency of what. If your vision is clear, your behavior, the things you do and the things you say, they reflect that you believe in your vision. They reflect that you understand your why and it's clear. Okay, and also he emphasizes that the why people are people with a vision, and it's not just a vision, it's a vision that they actually believe that it's possible. They believe that the vision can happen. Why people also, they inspire people. The people you are worked with are inspired to work with you. That's why they're saying, if you are a why person, hire people who are inspired and then skill them, other than hiring people who are skilled and then trying to inspire them into seeing your vision. Why people inspire people and they get people who know how. Another aspect of it is why people, in summary, they inspire people to follow them and support their vision. They build loyalty with their customers. They have a they have a following of people who trust them. And when people support them, they support them because they believe in their vision and what it can do for them, not just what the product is being offered. The why people also are driven by an interest more than just their own self-interest. They are also driven by the need to serve. He then goes on to show that in a company, the CEO is the why person, middle management is the how, and the ground workers are focused on the what. The author then went on to give examples of people who were inspired by their why to behave and change the world. The first one is Dr. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King wanted an America where people have equal rights. And because that is what other people want for themselves, they supported his vision, not because it was his vision, but because it's also what they want for themselves. And then there's also Bill Gates. Bill Gates wants a malaria-free world because people want a world where there's no malaria. They are supporting his vision. The white people might not know how to get what they want, but then they attract the how people to help them with the vision. He also speaks about the Wright brothers that revolutionized the airline industry. Their why was that they wanted people to have access to flights as easily as they had access to taxis and buses. The take-home messages for me is that white people have a clear purpose and they are inspired by the need to serve. White people, when you are white people, you don't necessarily need to know how, but then if your vision is clear, you will attract people who assist you with making your vision possible. And white people are the ones that change the world. However, there's a lot of people that are trying to do what you are doing. So if your why is not clear, you will not attract the right people to assist you with your vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you. Wow. That was a beautiful summary of the book. I know you said, you only read 6 hours and you were not sure, how you'd interpret the book for us, but I think that was well done. That was so to the point and gave us a bit of an understanding of what to expect in the book. So I think everyone on the channel, if you can go buy the book, now you have a good idea of what the book is about. So thanks, Veronica. I like, what you were saying, especially with the 3 questions of why, what, and how. For me, that's like the key essence, the takeaway, because without a why and then followed by the what and the how, nothing can work. So thank you for giving us those examples also, just to make it real and for us to just have an idea of what the why means. So very well done review. I really enjoyed that, and I do look forward to buying the books. I hope all our readers, you are ready to go read it, because I think most of us didn't read the book. That's why we only had Veronica. but I hope we will be, we'll go and get the book because of that review. So thank you for that. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker on the program, Mr. Spongiseni Mkolozeli, and he will be reviewing a book that also seems quite interesting, titled War in the Boardroom. Yes, he's got it up. Can you see, ladies and gentlemen? War in the Boardroom. I think for us who are employed, this is like we've got our ears and eyes ready to hear what this is about. It's a book by Al and Laura Rees. So looking forward to your review, Sibo, and readers, please remind me questions at the end. So let's park the questions for the end and we'll do that. But Sibo, welcome and thank you for taking the time. So you also have about 5 to, let's say, 7 minutes to review the book. Thank you, Sibo. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam MC. I will just start the timer. I will time myself using stopwatch so that at least I try to finish on time. Yes, thank you for the opportunity, Madam MC. The book is called War in the Boardroom. It's basically, the subtitle of the book is called Why Left Brain Management and Right Brain Marketing Don't See Eye to Eye and What to Do About It. Since you said for you, people who are employed, it's basically not necessarily about people who are working or employees, but basically I think it's more about the managers, so it's the business people and the CEOs. Basically, it's a comparison. It's a compare and contrast method between the strategy of running a successful business, who is more likely to succeed in business, between someone who's more focused on marketing and the one who's focusing on management. So I like the contrast between these two. So it's basically management versus marketing. When the book starts, these two marketing gurus, Al and Laura Rees, it's basically a father and a daughter. So I think the father groomed the daughter from the very, very early age about how marketing works and why so many businesses in the world fail and why those ones who succeeded did in order to succeed. So it also ties back to the book of the month on what Veronica was working. So basically the marketing people are the why people, the CEOs, those people who are actually working in terms of their intuition, and they look at the very visual. They are very visual. The book called them even visionaries, while on the other hand, the management people, they are actually on the left brain side. They use verbal and logic and analytical skills, but these ones, they use visual, intuitive, and they look at the whole holistic picture of the things. So let me bring it down a bit in terms of, let's start now with marketing. In terms of marketing, I believe that each and every entrepreneur or maybe CEO, they might not necessarily have these skills, but because of their intuitive sense, some people, they describe intuition as a direct message from God. God, I believe he kinds of put this kind of a dream into them, or a gift. They see things and they have these big ideas, but it's just that they don't know how to do it. But because they are why people, like Vero was saying, the how people are the managers, then the what people are the people in the ground, the workers that actually make the vision come to life. So back to the why people, the visionaries in marketing. Those people are visionaries in a sense that they see the idea, they know where it needs to go, but to get there, they need people who will actually guide or coach them or mentor them into getting there. But because of their intuitive skills, they don't just go to management people, because the management people kind of somehow, they like, you dream too big. So this is not the way to go. So they go into the right people who have walked the path, who are actually just like them in terms of logic, in terms of thinking, for guidance. For instance, if you want to go to the moon, you cannot go to someone maybe who has never been to the moon to guide you in terms of how to make that rocket and what to do to prepare yourself. You'll go to the people, let's say at NASA. They will guide you in terms of how to prepare yourself to get there. Similarly in business, if you want to start a big brand like McDonald's or Coca-Cola, or business that are sustainable, that have survived through decades and decades, like those ones who die maybe within 3 to 5 years after they've been established, then go to those people who are running these successful brands or franchises. So that's the idea. Now, how it works is, these people actually, the visionaries, not like they're completely ignorant of the management people, but what they do is, the book uses the two terms called ambidexterity. So we spoke about left and right left and right management. So the ambidexterity is basically a term that describes someone who's very skilled in terms of using their right hand and their left hand equally. Now, the contrast to that is basically ambibrainarity. So ambibrainarity, now it comes back to the left brain logic and the right brain logic. So the right brain people are the ones that are CEOs, the visionaries. So what they do is they don't ignore the managers. They know they need them in order to run the company successfully. But in terms of the life-changing decisions, they don't necessarily rely on them, but they consult what the visionaries outside. But to run the company, they know they need the how people, the managers, to make the right decision in terms of how the operations basically within the company. And the managers, obviously, they will manage the people, the what people at the bottom, like the employees who are working on the ground. Now, the good thing about this is that the managers, they don't care about the brand. They might not know how to advertise or how to market the business correctly. This is where the skills of the right or the CEOs or the right brain people comes in. Basically, what they do is, without having to go and start a business, without having a formal qualification, they understand what makes the business successful. For instance, they know where to market, they know how to brand themselves, and they know which areas of business to focus on instead of diversifying as soon as you start the business. Veronica in her review spoke about the long-term versus short-term goals, or maybe people are short-sighted who want the results now versus those who are very patient, who are actually looking at the long-term gains. So the CEOs are people who are looking into the future. Remember, they are visionaries. They don't care about the short-term gains, but they see the future and then seeing the company running through and how to survive the storms as the business is growing and expanding, but not forgetting their why. Remember, they start with why. They are those people who are visionaries. They are entrepreneurs. They are people who start by inspiring, not by manipulating, which is basically something that is found through the managers. The managers, they want to drive sales now, but the entrepreneurs, they want to focus more on the brand, on building a brand, like they start with the name, with the logo, and they try to avoid, when they're coming up with a name, with generic names, like the book uses examples such as Mitsubishi and so many difficult names you have heard about it before when I use the industry of automobiles, for instance. So they use the example of simple, like when you're choosing a name for your company, just choose a name that will be easier to pronounce, a name that will be easily pronounced even everywhere where you go in the world. They use like Apple, for instance. They use Red Bull, Coca-Cola, Mercedes-Benz. You see, those names, they say they have like some kind of a rhythm into them. It's easier and they're kind of compelling. So in terms of marketing, branding, and advertisement, they go hand in hand. While the management look at how can you sell the product fast, the entrepreneurs, they look at how can we dominate whatever category we're in. If we're not first in that category, let's say, for instance, in the category of, let's say, the franchises that are making burgers. You look at McDonald's, you look at Burger King. For you, you know which one is more famous here in South Africa, even though both of them are not actually inventions or maybe are South African brands. What they did in terms of when they are making the comparison is like, the businesses that are focusing more into the product and the brand and advertisement, they are more likely to succeed and become more valuable in terms of the net value of the company compared to those ones that want to diversify. And the beautiful picture that the book painted here is about the car industry. So you know there are so many different brands. Some are even making trucks, some are making luxury cars. When, without even you noticing, there are those maybe luxury cars like sport cars like Porsche, Ferraris, and so forth. You will never see those companies that are their big names that are very expensive, maybe having a truck or something like that. So they focus more. That's why they are more valuable in terms of cost than the ones that diversify. For instance, like Ford, you will find them, they have trucks and so forth, they have small cars, like SUVs, everything you can think of. Even though they can be successful, but in terms of value, they are more likely to be better in terms of revenues than the company that is basically spreading their wings into each and every category. So the book is quite interesting in terms of drawing comparison, like the companies that have died before. For instance, when it comes to cell phones, there was once a company called Motorola that was dominating back maybe early in the 2000s in terms of the category of cell phones. And they were competing maybe with Nokia back then. But then Nokia overcame them in terms of the revenues. Now, even though Nokia is maybe was overtaken by Apple or maybe other Androids, since Nokia is using like Windows as operating systems, but that's how things evolve. So when you are starting a business, basically the idea is always to just make sure you got the branding right, you got the marketing right, and the advertisement right. So when you start with a name and a good brand, it becomes easier for you to be sustainable and to survive for decades and generations to come, if you are not solely focusing on manipulation, management, and everything else. So don't always use logic, but use your intuition. Intuition always wins in business. I've taken in double my time. Madam MC, I'll stop there, but this is one of my passion recently now. I love learning about business and the key components of business. So I'll stop there, but back to you.
Thank you, Siwo. We could pick up that passion when you were speaking. I did put a chat to say 1 minute, but I realized you won't see it because you are so passionate about what you're speaking. So from my side, thank you so much for that review. I think also another well written and thought through review. There's a lot that we are learning, I think, through these reviews, right? Everybody, if you can just agree with me in terms of, we are a book club, but I don't think we are just a book club, right? What Siwo has shared is some vital information for anybody that wants to start a business, or anybody that's in the boardroom, as you said, Siwo, marketing versus management. So I think there's a lot of tips in this book, that you are sharing. And I think what people normally ignore, intuition versus logic. I think normally you think in business is logic, right? You must be logical, there must be a formula. So you giving us another thought now, you're giving us another perspective to say, how can we succeed? And I actually like how the two books relate, right? The Veronica book, and then we'll start with the Y plus this one. It's actually amazing how when you get to read books, they can talk to each other and the message runs through the thread. And I think we've had this again in another session. I remember in one of our other book clubs meeting where the message runs through as a thread. So thank you for that review. Thank you for giving us that business information, boardroom work information. And I think it's up to us to take what we hear from the books, from yourselves as reviewers, and to take it forward in terms of applying it in our lives. So thanks, Siwo. And before we go ahead, let's see if we've got questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pindi.
Hi.
Very informative. I'm definitely going to actually read the book. And from there, I think I might have more questions maybe later on our WhatsApp group, but quite interesting. And actually, it speaks to me at the moment because I'm doing a business management course. So I'll definitely actually read that book. Thanks.
Thank you, Pindi.
Awesome, Pindi. I think, excuse me, that's the value of the book club, right? To just get each other informed, open our eyes, referrals, networks. So wonderful. Get the book. All right, next item on our program, which is the last and final item. I'm excited to introduce this next person, who's our guest speaker for today. And our guest speaker is none other than Kanaji Kavenda. Kanaji, welcome to the Visionary Book Club. And we really are excited to have you here this evening. It's now evening. And we look forward to just hearing more about you and the book. But before we go into, I give the mic to you, let me just read, I have a biography of Kanaji, so I'll just quickly read through that. I think it's important that we just get to have a bit of a background about you, but please feel free to add to what I've just read, Kanaji, but I think it's just good for the team just to hear a little bit about you. So Kanaji is the founder of the Big Five Guru Close Corporation, which specializes in the design and implementation of quality and food safety management systems. She has a BTech degree in quality, diploma in food technology, packaging technology, and personnel and training. She also has several certificates and short courses that are related to this field. She's a training facilitator, a national and international lead auditor for the ISO 9001. I think she also mentions that she leads by example in her efforts to slow down global warming, a very pivotal and topic that we do come across in our daily lives. And her passions include things like gardening, interior decorating, and home improvements, as well as creating decor items from waste. So there you go. If you're interested in getting someone to do your interior decorating, look no further. We've got Kanaji online. So that's very interesting. I found that interesting. Her writing skills originated from writing management systems in safety, health, environment, risk, quality, and food safety. And her writing career began when a few thought-provoking articles were published in a mainstream print media. We can ask her, you can tell us a bit more about those articles, Kanaji. I was interested in just to see, what the mainstream media was, but you can share that with us just now. And then she currently pens her thoughts on her Facebook page, Legacy by Ink. But she mentions that it is currently deactivated due to hacking. Oh, sorry about that. But I think hopefully your page will be up and running, but please just give us more info on that also, just for our readers to have that detail. And she aims to enlighten, empower, and leave a legacy via her writing. Hence, she's penned this book. And in closing, Kanaji prefers to be acknowledged as a woman, wife, and mother. So those are the three. Besides everything I've read, acknowledge her as a woman, wife, and mother. So that is an intro to our guest speaker, and we look forward to hearing from you. So Kanaji, you can switch on your camera in the meantime as I'm introducing you, and I'll give you time then I think you have about 10 minutes, Kanaji, for your, just to tell us about your book and a little bit about yourself. So yes, if you can switch on your camera and we can all see you, and we can just have a good 10-minute session with you. I will jump in when 10 minutes is over, because you might not be looking at the time, so I'll try and interrupt somewhere in between. But yeah, welcome to the session. We look forward to hearing from you. I can see you, so you can start. Yes. Welcome.
I'm Karen. The Guardian Me greets the Guardian You. I'd like to talk to you about my book, A Perfectly Orchestrated Plan by Carnegie Govender. Before I continue, I am having a problem with my internet, so I hope you can hear me and you can see me properly. But I'll try to do the best I can.
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you. So far it's good. If it breaks, I'll let you know.
Okay. My book is called A Perfectly Orchestrated Plan because in the first half of my life, I was at the right place at the right time. Everyone around me was helping me to develop, empowering me, giving me ideas on how to better my writing, how to better myself, from my teachers to my neighbors to my family. And I always took all of that information that they gave me and I implemented it, and I became a very strong person and a go-getter. The second half of my life became a bit of a turmoil, started gradually, and then it really reached its peak. So in my family, I'm one of 4 children. I'm the third child. And I was the first one to go to college. And in my mother's side of the family, I was the only one to go to college. My father's side of the family, I'm in the middle of the family, just as was my mother's side. And I was the only one to graduate. There were a few others before me that graduated. So I was the only one. And when I went into my husband's family, I was also the only graduate. Although there were a few others that went to college before me, but they dropped out. So I was looked at as someone, as that person. I broke away from the chains of poverty. And instead of people reaching up to my standard or being inspired by me, they ostracized me. And it became a very painful place for me. Much of my life, I found that my immediate family used to leave me out of functions and get-togethers and stuff like that. And as I became more and more financially stable and my status increased, people couldn't talk to me. They couldn't engage me in conversation. I was just someone that was, the person that you hear about, but you don't mingle with. And it became quite an ugly place for me and very, very lonely, where people would invite me. They invited me, they'd invite me late for the function. They would take, if it was a bring and share, they'd take my food and hide it, but keep it for themselves because it looked so good. And then they had, with my in-laws, there was a thing called the coffee punishment, but I call it the coffee punishment because they didn't know how to hurt me. So the only way they could hurt me was not give me coffee. So if everyone was a room full of people and they're making coffee for everybody, they won't give it to me. Or it was, and then it became like juice and cakes and whatever it was that they were, sorry, my hair is irritating. Whatever it was that they were doing, they tried to leave me out. And I became so lonely and painful that I started retreating into myself and breaking away from these people. But as I became like quite financially stable, they started to now roll this coffee treatment onto my children, and my children would not hear about it. So we actually broke away from the family and was, in our own little shell. And just before I wrote the book, I had an incident at work, and even in the work front, I had like constantly people blocking me. So I was always at the right place, but at the wrong time. I was blocked at every avenue. And it got to a point, I think just before the book, where one of my customers actually didn't pay me for work I'd done. And I'd done a training session, 3 sessions in a row because it was urgent, without having a coffee break, without having a break to go to the toilet, and he didn't pay me. So after a few months, and he was very, very good to me, so I didn't follow up immediately. After a few months, when I followed up, he said, speak to my lawyer. And the lawyer tried to insinuate that I forged my qualifications. So I was quite pissed off with this. And I found myself wishing that his toe, because I knew he had a problem with his toe and I knew he was diabetic, and I wished his toe would rot with gangrene. So that's a dark place that I had gotten into. Because even when the family used to do these things to me, make me feel like when I went to a function and they embarrassed me or something like that, telling me my clothes doesn't suit me or my lipstick doesn't suit me, I would then wish karma visited them. And when this happened, there was a hand that picked me up from this dark, and I found that there's a whole lot of incidents that were happening, and it seemed so coincidental that all these things were happening at the same time. And because I always wanted to write a book, I wrote about these incidents. So I felt it was a communication to me from God. So I wrote about these incidents, and I started like just before lockdown, and by April I had a book. I sent it to my friend to edit, and then she gave it back to me. When I was going through the edit, I found myself including the journey that I've gone through in the book. And I didn't want to. And I was praying to God. I said, God, please do not make me visit this dark, dark place. I don't want to talk about it. But just before that, I also started mending my relationships, because remember, COVID was on us, and I didn't want to not have my family. So I was mending all of these relationships. And now I thought, if I was going to write these things in this book, I was going to break that relationships again, and I didn't want to do that. But try as I might, I could not remove this from the book. It had to be in the book. So I wrote the book and I sent it to Prashanti Nilayam, which is the place that I intended to send the book for publication. And when they received it, the tone of the email told me they were very happy with what I've written. So I was excited the book was going to get published. But after they completed reading it, the tone of the email suggested that they didn't like the book. It was almost like they were shouting at me. And now I was quite upset because I had spent the whole of 9 months writing this book. And when I say writing, I was flat out writing. I couldn't even stop for lunch because the ideas were just pouring into me. And I would be so hungry and so weak that I'd be continuing typing. I'd wake up like 3 in the morning and start typing, or I'd go to bed at 1. So this book consumed me for that 9 months. And now to tell me it wasn't going to get published, I was not going to hear about it. So I saw a picture that said, basically God helps those who help themselves. So I started looking at other publishers, and I eventually decided to self-publish. But when I decided to self-publish and I had to review the book again, I realized why Prashanti had rejected the book. It was so filled with hate. The hate that I felt for everyone that hurt me was in that book, although I was trying not to put it in, the hate was so strong, it came out in the book. So now I had to remove all of that hate, and I had to undo all of the curses that I had placed on these people. I had to now pray for them, pray for their well-being, their growth, their prosperity, because I felt if they were happy, they will not inflict pain on me. And so I started doing that, and a lot of them have progressed since. And the message to me was that you have to, so if something is going wrong, you got to discuss it. I hate this thing about everyone's narcissistic and toxic and stay away from that people. If someone hurts you, have a discussion, tell them what they're doing, show them what they're doing, and try to find a common ground. Because sometimes people really don't know that they're hurting you. And I had lost so much of relationships because of that, because I didn't know how lonely I was. And my family, some of them did read the book, and they were very upset that I was so lonely and in so much pain, and I hadn't approached them. They took it personally, and I had to explain to them it wasn't about them, it was about me. And this book means so much to me because it is a communication to me from God. So whatever is in this book is what God wanted in this book. And it made me such a different person, because now when I experience things, like right now I've been hacked. My cell phone has been hacked. My personal conversations are being shared. My verbal conversations with people are being listened into. My emails are hacked, and people think it's just a fun thing, but it was devastating for me to know that someone knows everything that I'm thinking about. And I was planning to write another book, and all of that, I had a document where I just dumped a whole lot of conversations and thoughts and whatever in this document. That document is circulating among 40 people that I'm counting at the moment, and prominent people, journalists, media personalities, authors. They all wanted to know what's book 2 about. Because my Facebook page, I created such a racket there. We're keeping it real and telling it like it is, and showing people that everything that they do can affect someone very, very badly. People were intrigued by me to that level that they hacked me. And it's not stopped. Even last night, there was a conversation of mine that I could see people have listened into it. And they don't realize how they're violating me, but they're trying to force me out of Facebook. Someone actually said, we moved on and don't come back on social media and be a poet. Another person said, because I said I was under a rock, another person said, if you can't dollar with the big girls, go park in the veranda. So people really want to be out of the way. They're not realizing that what I stand for is, but to promote reading, I don't write like a teacher kind of writing. I write it as very light. I bring in a bit of sex into it as well, because people like to flirt and that kind of thing. But they warmed up to me, and they were reading what I was writing. Every single day, people were looking forward to what I was writing, even if it seems stupid. But in that wiggle way, I wouldn't say brush your teeth every day. I'd say, if you don't brush your teeth, it's going to be like this, and you can't kiss a boy. So I'll make it fun that you want to read, and there's a message in it there. So they didn't like that about me, and they kind of forced me out. But never mind about that, because this book is really, really a book. It gives you so much of information about the environment, about lots of things that you can learn, and the business ethics and quality stuff. Because I'm a quality practitioner, you get all of that from this book. Thank you very much for allowing me this time to review my book.
Stay on camera, because people will probably have questions for you. But before we get to that, thank you so much for sharing that book, and what you've done, what you've gone through, and how you've, I think, carefully orchestrated and written the book, right? Just to share a message that is very pivotal to also society. And it's what I like about what I'm hearing from the book is, although you went through, quite a lot, and you faced a lot of challenges, you didn't let that turn into, negativity. You've actually turned that for good. You've actually turned that for the betterment of society and of humanity by creating, for example, the Facebook page, by writing this book. So, you are a true example of that. When life gives us, for example, lemons, you turn it into lemonade. So I really, really enjoyed that. And you shared a very important lesson, which I actually live by. I was sharing with my mom this weekend that, when somebody hurts you, as you said now, sit with them, talk to them, tell them what they've done wrong, right? Share with them so that they know and they understand. You don't just bottle it inside. It's funny, I was actually sharing that with her this weekend. So again, there's this synergy, there's this thread that's running through the session this evening. So thank you for that. We look forward to your book. But before I move forward with the questions, I just want to check, just give us a bit more detail where people can get the book, how much is the book, so that at least we just have that information from you.
Okay, the book, I'll show it to you again. It's 300 rands. You can get it from me. I'm on the Visionary Club WhatsApp group, so you could WhatsApp me.
Okay.
It's in a few bookstores, Bridge Books and Profound Books. There's also a e-commerce, e-commerce that you can buy it from. But yeah, the best way is to get it from me, and I will find it for you.
I think our readers also got all of that. So thank you. Yes, thank you. So readers, any questions for Kanaji, please, while she's still online?
My question would be, what impact are you hoping to make with sharing your experiences in the book? Like, how do you see the change, the person reading the book changing?
Okay, the message that I want is to spread love. And that's why I spoke about the hacking, because people were hating me so much. And because they hated me, it was so easy to influence them. I mean, they committed a crime. These are prominent, and I said, if I gave you the names, you'd be shocked at how prominent these people are. But because of hate, they were able to widen the club. But it was so difficult. I was promoting family values, the environment, a lot of the environment issues. It was so easy for them to spread love than to spread hate. And I really want people to go back and focus on the family, because if each of us has to go back and, just try to make sure our family do good and be good all the time, this world would be such a better place, than, a beautiful place. So that's what I'm hoping to spread love wherever I go. I hope that answers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Kanaji. And then just for myself, I don't know if you touched on it, but I don't think I got it. Just your writing experience, how was it penning all of this down? And what did you go through emotionally, mentally, and how did you deal with that?
Initially, it was quick. It was just like flowing out of me. There's some things in this book when I open it and I read and I say, did I write that? Because it doesn't sound like some of the synergies that I made didn't sound like it was coming from me. But because I believe that it was communicated, it was a gift that God had given me. It's really, some of the things are really beautifully written. It's a lot about discrimination, and if we follow the religion, there's only one religion, the religion of love. That's where we will change the world. So the part of the book that was really hard to write was those personal experiences which I had moved on from. And just to touch on something that you said I didn't become the victim, and that's what pursues a lot of people. And I actually got a phoenix tattooed on my wrist, on my ankle, because when life gives you lemons, what I say is I make orange juice, not lemon juice, orange juice, because it's something sweeter. So I take that and I grow and I become more powerful. So that is why when I say this book has prepared me for where I am, because these last 2 years after releasing the book has been the most difficult time of my life. But I am still flying high, and I know that I'm going to write the next book, and it's going to be a very, very powerful book. Yeah. And you asked about my writing previously. I had written articles like "Judged by Her Panties." Women should, when people always comment on women taking care of themselves, and I said we should love ourselves first. So a lot of those kind of articles are published in the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanaji. Make orange juice and not lemonade. I love that. I love that. My job is done. I don't know, Sibo, if you will share what's happening in the next meeting, which book we are reviewing, when it is, maybe just for the audience to have an idea. But thank you so much. I enjoyed this evening, and yeah, have a great night, everyone, and all the best in the productive week to everyone. Thanks, Sibo. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Madam MC. It's just going to be a quick one from me. It's just one announcement regarding our next meeting and our next book for the month of April. So as some of you might know, we meet once every last Sunday of the month at 6 o'clock. So the book of the month for April is going to be by Anna Mvubu. The title of the book is called Bringing Synergy into Your Life. Again, bringing synergy into your life by Anna Mvubu. So the date of the reviews will be the 30th of April. That is the last Sunday of April. The book is basically available for 200 rands. She is part of the Visionary Readers Book Club. So if you need your copy beforehand, you can get in touch with me and then I'll connect you with her.